a city of some 650,000 people, and the capital of a France presided over by the absolute monarch Louis XVI. On the rive droite of the Seine, the triumphal arch Porte Saint-Denis stood as an impressive legacy of the king's forebear, Louis XIV. Long before the Arc de Triomphe would contribute to Paris's defining monuments, this was one of just two triumphal arches that the so-called Sun King, or Louis the Great, had built to dignify the city, the other being the nearby Porte Saint-Martin. Over a century after their construction, the arches looked out to the northeast onto a new sprawling suburbia, comprising large houses and factories. But despite the expansion of the capital, little else had changed in France since the Sun King's reign. Louis XVI and his Austrian-born Queen Marie Antoinette ruled from the sumptuous palace at Versailles, which Louis the Great had constructed in the previous century. Here, France's royal family and much of the aristocracy remained buried in the pleasures and protocols of the past era. The same rituals and procedures continued, with the court dress and routine frozen in time. Meanwhile, the country was still run on the same feudal basis as it had been 100 years earlier. Here was a kingdom whose populace was categorised into 3 estates. The first estate consisting of the clergy, the second, the nobility, and the third, the rest of the population. And while the first and second estates, accounting for just 1 to 2% of France's population, enjoyed massive privilege and vast wealth, the less advantaged third estate carried the burden of taxation to support the national purse. The grandeur and ostentation of Versailles, defined by its dazzling hall of mirrors, served as a reminder of the French sovereign's supreme power. But during the 18th century, the symbolic status of Versailles had evolved. If, under Louis XIV, it had been seen as the embodiment of a king's magnificence, under his successors it had also become associated with the power of the women at the heart of France. In the mid-century, Louis XV's mistress, Madame de Pompadour, had exerted such influence over the king that many considered her akin to a prime minister. In her time, as the most powerful woman in France, it was not just her politics that impressed. She also became the figurehead of the Rococo or Rocaille style, epitomised by the lavish and playful swags that adorned the palace during her tenure, and which encouraged the French elite to similarly indulge in curvilinear excess in their interior schemes and dress. Meanwhile, the last mistress of that king, Madame du Barry, became the embodiment of different but equally cutting-edge and expensive tastes. Louis XV's preparedness to clothe this extremely beautiful shopgirl-turned-courtesan in the most expensive silks and jewellery was matched by her preparedness to commission the most exquisite and costly works for her considerable apartments. In 1774, these rooms presented a feminine version of the emerging aesthetic that would dominate French taste well into the 19th century, neoclassicism. Here, it was expressed in the gold and white interior scheme commissioned by du Barry. The classical simplicity of white walls, with mouldings emblazoned in gold leaf, was punctuated by colourful furniture upholstered in the finest silks. Chairs and settees abounded in every room, intended for the artists and musicians she patronised. They would flock to these rooms to entertain and converse, to participate in a carefully curated urbanity, and to engage in France's unique cultural obsession, art de vivre. By 1783, the year in which this story begins, feminine puissance was embodied by Marie Antoinette. A queen doted on by a supplicant husband, she had carried on where du Barry had left off. Her indulgence in fashion was well known, her taste a matter of national interest, and her sway over the king recognised as a fait accompli. She was the latest consort to manipulate the levers of a French.
To keep listening to this audiobook for free, click the link in the description. It will take you to a free Audible trial where you can listen to this and many other books for free for 30 days.